Welcome to another edition of the Dallas Aftershow here on JLJ Media. I'm James Lott Jr. I was watching some old episodes of Dallas, and I ran across a scene that I had forgotten about that I'm bringing up to you. Maybe you guys remember this scene. If not, you can look it up yourself too. Miss Ellie and Cliff didn't share many scenes together. They didn't share a lot of scenes where they were talking to each other. And there's a very important scene. It's about 4 or 5 minutes long. That's it. That's very important to the history of the show, to the characters, and it's beautifully written and beautifully acted by Miss Barbara Bel Geddes and Ken Kirchhoff. Cliff gets involved with this guy, Dandy Dandridge, and tries to help him. And Dandy accuses him of cheating him out of some stuff, and he didn't cheat him out of some stuff. And it became this full circle moment for Cliff, thinking about the whole Digger Barnes, Jock Ewing thing, which was a part of the series from the beginning. There was a huge, the Barnes versus the Ewings, because Digger thought that Jock cheated him out of oil, his oil gusher. Through that, Cliff has this realization. And he chooses to go to Miss Ellie. There's a scene on a bench. They're on a bench. And it's people playing outside, and it just, Cliff is so nervous. Kate Crutchfield plays it so, Miss Ellie is his figure, right? And he's so nervous, but he knows he has to talk to her. And Miss Ellie is so gracious in what Cliff has to say. Cliff admits this mistruth about Jock stealing from Digger, which set all this stuff in motion, was untrue. And for decades, there was so much pain and confusion over this, suffering. It was she pulls out the shoebox, and it was Digger Barnes, apparently. It was Digger's, and there's these pictures. And there's a moment when Miss Ellie looks at the picture of Digger when he was younger. They don't show us the picture, of course. She's looking at it. And she takes off her glasses, because like many of us, we got to put our glasses on to look at things now. And she goes back in time, like many of us do when we're confronted with the past. And she is like, just almost tears in her eyes, how much she loves Digger on some level. And she explains to Cliff what she loved about him. It was such a great scene. And, and he brings up Jock probably wouldn't be as gracious as she is. She likes to think he possibly could be. Well, of course, we'll never know. But, it was this huge history. And it wasn't Cliff versus Bobby or Cliff versus JR. It was Cliff and Miss Ellie. And Miss Ellie was from that generation this all thing started. The fact that JR and them are against the Barnes because of their daddy. And it just was a nice full circle moment and a nice piece of dramatic history for the show on Dallas. How they could reach back, and they didn't forget the past, so to speak. They still talked about it. But again, I just want to accentuate the acting, the story. Everything came together to me in that scene. And I just how King Richard was just so good as an apologetic guy, trying to, talk to this, respectable woman who was there. She was there. But the whole, what would have happened? There was this whole thing like, what would have happened if that hadn't been this big thing? It was good. It was such a good scene that I felt like it needed its own show, because again, there was scenes between characters that just never rarely happened. They rarely interacted. And when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, they did have this talk. And they weren't really together that much, but they brought them together for a good reason. So check out that scene. Go and check out that scene. It's online. Go check out that scene. I'm James Lott Jr. Dallas After Show here on JLJ Media, on all streaming services, and on YouTube at JLJ Media. See you next time.